Am I actually live? Goodness gracious. Okay. Are you joining me? If you are joining me, you should be on the main page. I could not get this to go live through the event, so my apologies for that, guys. I see that I am coming through on the other end. Okay. So for those of you that are joining me, know that there's about a 15 to 20 second delay on Facebook's end. So be sure to just go over to my main page and you'll see me live there. I am not live in the event. For those of you that are just figuring that out, I'm going to give this a few minutes for all of you to get over here. We're going to break this into a few parts today. I'm expecting a good diversity in users, and some of you are going to have experience. Some of you are going to be just pulling it out of the box, literally. So for those of you, if someone is joining me, I'm starting to see some folks pop through here now. Give me one moment. Okay. Okay. Can I share this? Perfect. Okay. So I am live and there's some of you here now. So if you are joining me, please let me know that you can see and hear me on the other end. As I said, there will be about a 20 to 30 second delay from when you type and something comes out of my mouth to it coming through live on Facebook. If you are joining me from a group that I have shared this to, make sure you come on over to my Deb's Vibe page, and you should see that's where the broadcast is coming through, and those are the comments that will come through to me on this end. So welcome. Thanks for joining me on your Friday night. Today we're going to talk, we're going to break this into three parts. The first part, we're going to talk about managing symptoms, the aches, the pains, what's been maybe holding you back from living your best, most active life. The second part, we're going to get into a little bit more for those of you that are active regularly, or perhaps you've been using your plate for a while and, things are just getting better and better for you. We want to make sure that you're still feeling challenged, and really the whole goal of doing this now, before Christmas and all the craziness, it's been nothing but sales for the last couple of weeks with all the Black Friday craziness and the research. So I recognize many of you have gotten the machine for the first time, and I want to make sure that you start on a good foundation. You've been motivated, you've done your research, you've made that purchase, and I want to make sure that you have the right tools in place, and it's a lot simpler sometimes when you have someone walking you through it. For those of you that are joining me with chronic issues of any kind, if you are terribly deconditioned, you're just pulling it out of the box, I recommend to all my new users, regardless of where you're starting physically, to be conservative on your time and intensity starting out. That is very, very important, because I want to make sure that you're not just taking on more than you're ready for. I see comments daily, dozens, hundreds at times, about, well, how do I program it past 10 minutes? Or, how come I can't change it past 15 minutes? Or if you're using the preset runtime on your vibration plate, that's the max runtime. That in no way, shape, or form is a starting point. And even for those of you that are conditioned, this is a new stimulus that activates your body in a different way than traditional activity, in a more effective way. It accelerates what you're doing on the floor, those exercises, those stretches, whatever they may be. So overdoing it looks like, maybe not in the first session, but if you're going too long and you are dealing with chronic issues, you might be moving too much lymph or circulation and the body's not prepared to dissipate it. You might have arthritic joints or deficiencies, and the muscles in the past typically don't get to that level of fatigue because the bad knee or the bad hip gets in the way. And using a vibration plate with some simple tips I'm going to give you today, you can get those muscles to a level of fatigue very, very effectively, very, very fast. And sometimes if you do have joint pain or something presenting the next day, it must have been the vibration plate. No, you just haven't gotten your system to a level of fatigue to that degree in a long time. And sometimes when you're dealing with chronic issues, chronic pain, it's hard to decipher the same old chronic stuff that you're always used to dealing with from what exercise pain is, because it's not something everybody experiences regularly. So if you are pushing yourself and you're sore the next day, I'm glad, because that tells me that you've tried and you've put forth some effort. But often if you've had a poor experience, which is part of the reason I love doing these sessions, is I'm really trying to get in front of you before that happens. The worst you're going to do is over-exercise. So if you are dealing with a chronic issue, a disease, something that you're recovering from, what would happen, or how would your body react if you overdid it at the gym or on a walk? Those same types of symptoms. Maybe it's muscle soreness, maybe it's swelling, maybe it's fatigue, and you're completely exhausted for a week afterwards. So these are all things to just keep in mind. I am also going to, at the end, I want to leave a healthy amount of time for questions. And because I have run short, started late, I've cut us a little bit short on time. So I just want to make sure, I'm not seeing any comments come through. So if you are joining me, I would really love it if someone could make a comment, just so I know you're seeing me, you're hearing me, and I'm good to continue rambling on my end. I'm just going to see here. I see Kathy is here and has liked my post. Thank you. But yeah, a comment would do me wonders. If somebody doesn't mind just making a comment, then I know that we're good to move forward here. Thank you, Kathy. You're my all-star today. So usually if you can't hear or see me, there's lots more comments. So I assume I'm coming through okay. So I'm going to mosey my way back this way. I've got the lay-down sauna. I've got so much stuff, seasonal stuff out. Today I am wearing my big old baggy other Black Friday purchase, my new big baggy barrel jeans that I've been living in since the weather turned cold. Tony's here. Hello. Thank you so much. Holly says, I'm seeing you on Facebook. No problems. If you guys have other folks out there you think may benefit from my ramble today, I invite you to share. I will ask towards the end for questions, but invite you, if you're thinking of something now and you can't be here later on, please feel free to make a comment. I will, when my old eyes get back to the screen, I'll go through the comments a little bit more individually towards the end. But if you're unable to stick around for the full 2 hours today and you want your question answered, please leave it. If you're jumping in later on a recorded basis, this is possibly a recording. For those of you watching it after today's event, just tag me at Debbie or at Deb's Vibe in the comments, and I will happily get back to you. If there gets to be a lot of discussion, sometimes just making a comment, I don't get the notification. I'll be keeping a close eye on this one. And for those of you that follow me elsewhere, I do support Life Pro. I am one of their trainers. I am a big, big fan of that company and the support they provide their customers. And I've been very blessed to work with most of the products that they offer. So whether it's red light, infrared saunas, vibration plates, I combine many of these technologies. So I like being versed and up on the latest and greatest. So thank you for being my most valued partner. I also work with medical grade vibration plates, which is a completely different conversation for another day. But if you are working with medical grade, if you're a medical facility, if you're trying to decipher some of the research online, they're a different category of machine. I will never use the word more effective. There's a lot of assumptions out there, but medical grade vibration plates have completely different performance characteristics than the home grade. And the type of coaching and support And quite frankly, the way that a medical grade vibration plate stimulates your central nervous system, which is one thing a vibration plate, without getting too technical, does really, really well, is it kind of preps the body for whatever you're going to do next to it, whether it's some vibration plate time, whether it's doing some other therapies, going to work, school, whatever it may be. It makes our body more prepared for the task ahead of us. It makes us more receptive to the exercise, increasing effectiveness. For many of you that are dealing with chronic symptoms and activity is something that you have been told you're just not going to be able to do anymore, I've seen too many miracles in my 20 years. So I'm going to touch very briefly, before I start shaking, on contraindications. Contraindications are like, they're this, it's a stupid word that somebody put out there at one point, but I want to break this word into two pieces. Contra indication. They're not contra don'ts. They're not contra can't do's. A contraindication, if you have something on some manufacturer's list or on my personal list being very small compared to others, it's an experience-based thing. You go see a physical therapist for, maybe you've had some spinal fusions. You probably want to deal with a therapist that's got some experience supporting that type of an individual. So same with the vibration plate. It's not that there's certain conditions you can't use it for, but even Life Pro, whether it's a medical grade company, they do not spend time on the plates coaching people to the same degree that my PTs, my doctors, and myself do. So if you do have a contraindication, it's just an indication to seek further clarity. It never means yes or no. It means maybe, and if we do use, and you have, maybe you've got a ton of contraindications. The bigger question is, should you be active? And to what degree? All a vibration plate is a way to get active that happens to be kinder and less impact, and to be honest, a lot more convenient and fun than some of the more traditional things out there. So I got into this 20 years with a bad knee, and I was always very active, but I was told at the time, oh, well, you're too fat and you're old and you need to lose like 60 pounds before we can even consider the knee replacement. So what do I do now? I can't run, I can't jump, I can't do any of the things I thought I used to do. I got into vibration plates a lot longer than most people and have just had a longer experience applying the tool. But I started in the medical grade, so I recommend, if you're just starting with this technology, you're trying to apply some of the research, you can't. The research itself is an indication, but the settings and the hertz and the frequency and all these things that people seek as a setting in the machine isn't really what it's all about. The settings are a way to customize your experience for your personal tolerance and how you feel. This is a personal experience to you. How it feels to you and to me and the guy next door, it can be completely interpreted in 3 different ways because we all have different sensitivities. We're all dealing with different bodies. We all live in different environments, and our self-care is different. Some of us don't do any at all. So today I'm working on a basic oscillating movement. So for those of you that are watching me for research today, what should I buy? Where I'm overwhelmed because there's a lot of battling on the internet. This is better than that. There are different movement types, and everything that's coming out of my mouth today is experience-based. So this is 20 years in a studio for most of it with the top medical devices side by side in those different movement types. And I'm going to tell you right now, based on experience, and manufacturing will also show this, oscillating movement, which is what 99.9% of the machines are out there. If it doesn't say what it is, it's probably oscillating. And I'm going to make this very dramatic looking. So oscillating moves how we walk. It mimics that side-to-side movement across the floor. It's like a teeter-totter. And the wider you stand, the more shake you get. The closer you stand, the more you reduce the shake. The shake, the amount of movement, I often refer to it as intensity because it means something to you. Amplitude, which is the actual term, it doesn't mean anything to you. What amplitude is in the vibration plate world is how far you're moving each time. Wider isn't better. Wider is more impact. It's more movement. And it's really one of those things you've kind of got to gauge the appropriate amount for you where you're at in this moment in time. So if you're just sitting on a stool, trying to get a little circulation going versus, you're doing a big workout or something. So the amount of amplitude on an oscillating plate is controlled and it's variable. This is one of the things, I've been doing this 20 years and there's no way that I can do this spiel and get through to everybody as much as I'd like to. But there's a mentality that we need to stand as wide as possible because we're getting more benefit. What you're getting is more impact, maximum impact. And if you are dealing with issues, I really would like you to try my approach. There's no one way to use a vibration plate, but I'm going to encourage many of you to just toss that manual on the side today and try this approach. It may not be your preference, but for many of you, you just didn't know it was a thing that you could do. So, you got your feet wide and you're sucking it up for 10 minutes and it's this horrible experience that you have to endure. It shouldn't be that at all. So we're going to start our demonstration today, seated, while I continue talking a little bit more because I went off on a tangent there about contraindications. So contraindications, if you have one, and the only one that I'm really concerned about is if you have very big bad blood clots right now or you are at high risk. Just below that, you're going to run into categories more referenced as like DVT, these types of things. But if you have known blood clots right now or you're at high risk, it's not the vibration plate that is a risk. It's the rush of circulation and lymphatic fluid that a vibration plate happens to be super effective at. So you want to keep moving, you got to keep moving, but going 10 minutes is like a turbo boost, way more than your system is probably prepared to take on. And if you're going really wide with your feet, it's also maximum impact. So you're probably going to be pretty sore. And, I haven't personally had any issues, but I do have clients I know that are dealing with these types of conditions, and I would prefer... Watch this. So instead of being wide to start, so I'm honing in on the blood clots, but using the plate in this fashion is how I want anyone with chronic issues of any kind, fear, poor mobility. If you've got some reason that's stopping you from taking it out of the box or you've had a poor experience, please try this approach. And for those of you that have watched me before, sorry for the repetition. So we're going to think more functional and less fitness, just for the first week or two. Get used to it before you start beating yourself up about a workout. And the holidays are coming. So I would prefer you start feeling better, moving and feeling better before you even get into a structured fitness routine. So keep the feet more realistically hip width apart. We don't walk across the floor with our feet wider than our hips. So about hip width apart. Start seated on a stool. The stool I'm seated on is a bar height, counter height stool. I'm 5'10", so the goal is long-term use. If you're just joining me today for the first time, a chair is fine. This isn't something you got to do right away. But long-term, a good complement to your plate is a bar height stool. It gets those legs you can see in the mirror at a better 90-degree angle or slightly higher. You don't want those hips going downhill. You don't want them lower than the knees. And when you're seated, even though you're not bearing mass, this is a modification we'll talk about as we get going here, but starting seated is a great way if you're unable to sustain your body mass or you're not supposed to be bearing your body mass yet, or maybe you just fatigue easily or have poor balance. So getting started seated is a good way just to sort of get a feel for the settings before you progress to more. So those feet are hip width apart, and here's the part that spooks everybody. I want you to speed it up. The slow speeds on a vibration plate are very different than a treadmill or an elliptical. And I see on almost every comment, start slow, 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 slow. On a vibration plate, the very slow speeds in oscillating. Oscillating has different operating characteristics than pulsation lineal, which I'll get into, but not yet. Oscillating has a little bit more to understand. So the amplitude is variable. You decide how strong you want the movement. But I guarantee if you bring your feet a little bit closer, get out of those slow, choppy, destabilizing speeds. Um, they're not comfortable. They're very jarring, in fact. If you bring the speed up, I'm on a mini waiver which goes 99. I'm at about speed 30 right now. So about a third of the way up. It's smoother. More movements in less time. It's less choppy. The body's got less time to react and guard and protect. And if you're dealing with fatigue and these chronic issues, the reasons I suggest less time is by complementing that time with a little bit of a faster speed, changing what you're doing within those 2 to 3 minutes, you're getting many more movements in less time. We're just reducing the amount of impact, the amount the muscle is having to respond to each movement until you get a feel for what's comfortable. Your amplitude is almost more important to understand than the speed or the frequency, because it's really where all the control is. And this is the biggest, hands-down advantage that oscillating brings to you using it at home, is you're always in control. So if it's a good day and you're doing your thing and you can take on a little bit more intensity, great. But if you have a chronic issue, something that's progressive that changes, you've had an injury, you're going through surgery, sometimes you need to change gears. And reducing feet distance to reduce the amount of intensity is the first adjustment that you should be making. So let's do a couple of things seated. If you are dealing with a major contraindication, blood clots, I would keep it to 2 to 3 minutes for your time today. But use it more often. Use it when you feel tired. Use it when you feel stiff. Use it when those symptoms say, I need some attention. So use it more often, a few times, 2 to 3 minutes, versus one big, long, max time session, because you will pay for it. So many of you that are restricted to seating, don't have the range of motion, can't get down on the ground and do some of the fitnessy stuff, the push-ups. I know you have upper body concerns, especially if you're trying to work on lymphatic drainage, bone density, whatever it may be. Now that you've got a little bit of a feel for the feet, and if you are joining me again, keep those feet hip width apart and a faster speed. If you find it's still too strong, it's too much, bring the heels a little bit closer. The heels are the point of contact that transfers it up to the rest of the body. So try this little thing. Lift the heels off and come up to the balls of the feet. You're doing like a little bit of a calf raise. And you'll notice you feel the movement, the resonance in the ankles, the tops of the feet, and the calves, but that's about it. Put one foot down, put that right heel or left back down, and you'll feel more movement in the leg. The heel is what drives it up to the rest of the body. So whether you're standing or sitting, one thing the body likes to do is it tries to make it easy. The body doesn't like change any more than we do. So one of the things it tries to do is shift the weight to the balls of the feet because it feels easier. Make sure those heels are firmly planted. So to practice that and to get a little bit more lymphatic movement going, let's just do a couple of different exercises. So for those of you dealing with lymphatic issues, you're just getting started, you just want to symptom manage for a little bit before we consider fitness, we're going to start some little foot pumps. So foot pumps, if you are restricted to seating, you got bad circulation, blood flow, the biggest favor you can do for yourself is keep those calves strong. Keep the circulation flowing. So all we're doing is we're rocking. Toes coming up like we're in some high-heeled shoes, like we're doing a little bit of calf raise. Then we're going to place the heels back down and just lift the balls of the feet a little bit. And we're going to just keep going through that motion. I want you to be mindful of your posture, good breathing, kind of get grounded. Make sure in your stool, you're tilting that pelvis slightly back. If it's tilted forward, you're looking like a slouch. Okay, so tilt that pelvis back just a bit. Keep those shoulders back. We're going to keep the basic foot thing going. And to get a little bit more upper body movement, guess what? When you move, lymph moves. So I don't care if you want to flap your arms like a chicken, you want to punch like you're Rocky, maybe we're going to pretend we're walking and do some brisk arm movements. Play around and experiment. You don't have to do anything the exact same way I'm doing. I just want to give you ideas. And reminder, you're always in control. If it's getting to be too strong, bring those feet a little closer. If it's kind of meh and you want a little bit more action, widen them up a little bit. Make sure the posture's there. You shouldn't feel like you're bouncing all over the plate. If you are bouncing all over the plate, you're taking them a little wider than the legs are comfortable taking on. So shimmy them a little closer until you feel more stable. We're going to add to our pumps some upper body goalposts. Let's warm the shoulders, the back up, and add a little bit more lymphatic flow in the process. So we're going to bring our arms up like a 90-degree angle. Many of you have seen this in my sessions, and it's really more about being coordinated than anything. So when we come up on the toes, I want a nice big exhale. So we're going to come up on the toes, and we're going to bring those elbows forward. Exhale. Then we're going to change, heels down. Start drawing those elbows back. Inhaling. Big inhale. Exhale. Or whatever order feels good. Okay. Pull those arms back like you're trying to touch those shoulder blades together. Forward up on the heels. These are just variations. For those of you that do like chair yoga or chair Pilates or any exercise that you do in this position, all a vibration plate is, it's an environment. It's an environment that creates more effectiveness, more movement, and it, like I say, it turbo boosts that lymph and circulation. There are other, what I call forever or perpetual benefits. These are things that happen every time you use the plate, and this becomes very critical with symptom management because many of you are dealing with range of motion issues, the fatigue. So using the machine throughout the day ensure those spot treatments. You may now already have some stretches, or maybe you've got some exercises that you're supposed to be doing regularly at home. Well, by doing them in the environment of a vibration plate, it reduces the amount of time and to a degree the amount of effort that you have to do in performing them. So if you're struggling with those exercises you're supposed to be doing, try doing some of them on your vibration plate. Same settings, bring it up a little bit, keep those feet a little bit closer. Maybe you have flexibility issues. Some of those perpetual benefits of increasing that circulation and lymphatic movement, whether you're doing anything specific to stretching or not, the flexibility is going to improve. The balance is probably one of the shortest term benefits you will experience, even within the course of one session. As I said earlier, it preps the system for whatever you're going to do to it. It primes that central nervous system. And a lot of my therapists will use it for like a minute or two before they do something else. Whether it's exercises or other equipment. A lot of my families working with special needs, if any of you are joining me today, I did invite my cerebral palsy group as well. Sometimes with the littles, you're busy and your back's killing you, and if you're dealing with poor mobility, paralysis, partial or more, the plate moves for you. So on those really, really bad days when you know you should, this, even just seated, or symptom management, I do want you guys standing as well. Whether you sit or stand depends on two things. Of course, whether you're able to. If you're not able to stand and bear your own weight without some assistance, maybe you could put, this is always my demo, put something like this in front of you. This is my swingy bar height stool, but then you've got something to hang on to. As I said, balance improves quickly. So for those of you investing money in these awful models with handles, you know what? A lot of times you don't need them very long. And if you do need a handlebar long-term for support, I suggest something more stable, something that's on the wall, the back of a couch, your kitchen counter. Some of the smaller cutie patootie compact models that have a little handle, when that thing's only weighing 12 to 16 pounds, it's not going to support your weight if you grab that bar. So I don't want you, going, I'm not saying buy the most expensive plate. I understand many of you are dealing on a budget, and a lot of times it's popular to go with a smaller plate because it's more portable. You can move it around. But if you do need something to hang on to, be that short or long term, there's other ways to give yourself balance and stability than relying on a cheesy little handle that comes with the machine, regardless of brand. So standing on the plate is going to give you more total body benefits. But for those of you that are unable to stand, which I'm going to progress to next, excuse me, You can get into the upper body passively while seated as well. I showed, some of these manual movements, arm circles, whatever you may be doing now. But to incorporate vibration into the upper body, take your hands, lock those elbows, rest them on your knees. Now, especially for my ladies, we tend to have tension and stress in the neck and the shoulders to begin with. The bra, the purse, the kid lifting, all of that. This is where we carry our stress. But if you're dealing with head sensitivities, neck issues, new dental work, eyeball issues, ear issues, please use your common sense. Please, 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 please use your common sense. Don't go jumping on this thing for 10 minutes at max and wonder why you've got a headache the next day. We're all in control over our experience, and I think many of you need to understand that even though it feels so good while you're using this thing, be conservative. If you haven't gotten off the couch in 20 years, I don't want to have you have a setback for 3-4 days because you did too much. And I don't want to scare anyone, but I'm very serious. In the 20 years that I have been doing this, the only harm that comes from these plates is the harm we subject ourselves to by thinking we know it all and following a manual that's designed for public use when you're dealing with a chronic issue. Know your limitations. That doesn't mean that's a bad thing. I just want you to be realistic because I want you to improve, progress positively, not hurt yourself and have a poor experience that leaves you sore for a week and screws up your holiday season. So you can always do a little bit more later. Keep your time short, 2 to 3 minutes. Keep your intensity conservative, and let those symptoms tell you when you need another fix. 2 to 3 minutes. So by locking the arms, I got off on a tangent there, sorry. And just leading your weight into those kneecaps a little bit, you're pushing the legs a little bit harder into the plate, which feels great, but you're getting more direct movement from that resonance of the movement into the shoulders, the neck. You can lean into it a little bit more, maybe do some head rolls, some shoulder rolls. If that's not your thing, that's fine. There's other ways we can get upper body movement until you develop a bit of a tolerance. For those of you that like it and go, oh, that's awesome, but I could do more. Take those elbows then, and let's go to the next progression. So the next progression is leaning those elbows directly on the knees. And even though it's a stronger movement because there's less dampening, we're not going through the forearm now, it's direct from the elbow right into that shoulder. The head is kind of past the shake zone, if you will. So you'll find it's actually much more comfortable in the shoulder blades, the neck. I want you to just have a nice neutral spine, focus on the breathing, maybe do some shoulder rolls, whatever you would normally do seated to hit tension. What I used to do in my studio, you'd be in this position, I would come and I would add massage gun or my hands manually, and the vibration is kind of helping me do my work. It's getting the circulation and the lymph more targeted in that area, and it makes my manual work, my manual lymphatic drainage, whatever it is that you do for self-massage, more effective. Now, make sure you're breathing. If you are prone to head sensitivities, please bring the feet a little bit closer before you do this one. See how it feels, and don't fight and resist it. It's just going to amplify the vibration. The muscles are meant to accept the movement fluidly, not shake and fight them and be rigid, if you will. So, 30 seconds to a minute on something like that. Make sure that you're breathing, hydrated, all that common sense stuff. For those of you that are ready to stand, we are going to progress to standing. And, standing is going to give you one key benefit a little bit differently other than, I mentioned earlier already, it's a little bit more total body effect, but it's more mass. You're bearing more of your mass. Therefore, the bone density piece is going to have more long-term benefit doing this than just this. So if you're struggling with standing on the plate, there's a lot of ways before we get to standing. So maybe you can't stand completely on it yet, but you can stand on the floor. Maybe you just had a hip replacement and you can't work one side or the knee. But if you're able to walk around and make your sandwich and go to the washroom, technically you're bearing weight. So for those of you that say, well, when after my hip replacement can I use my vibration plate? The answer is always going to be, I don't know. What do you want to do on it? and how are you doing in your recovery. If it's 6 years ago, it's different than 6 days ago. So as soon as your doctor is kind of, okaying that weight-bearing activity in other realms of your life, you're actually okay to use your vibration plate. But the comfort in using it, if you have prior experience to an injury or surgery, then if you have no experience using, is very, very different. There's some newbie stuff you got to go through. So if you're fearful and you're able to stand, but you're not sure if you're ready to put your whole body on it yet, you can do variations where you're putting, one leg on it. If your balance is able, you can stand on one leg and keep that leg out of the equation. You can also expand the real estate you're working with. So this is LifePro's Aeroflex step. If you have an aerobic step, what this serves is, there's lots of awesome fitness moves you can do, but it gives you more real estate the height of the machine. So maybe I want to work one side, but this side I can't put on yet. So you can put half your body weight on, and you'll notice it in my voice. You can hear it like not at all right now. See? You can decide how much mass you want to put onto that leg. You want to make sure the knees are always, of course, slightly bent. There's always exceptions. But if you're feeling it too much in the head, or you have head sensitivities, this is another area the body's very lazy. This is harder than this. So even if you're squatting a little bit, the body tries to stand you up and make it easier. So if you find while you're standing, if you're doing your squat and you've traveled, which means you stand up, you start hearing it in your voice, look down and I guarantee you, without even realizing, you've probably stood up a bit. So if you're just learning squats, practicing squats, maybe you're dealing with Parkinson's, MS, you've had a stroke. Sometimes there's long-term reasons that one side is not functioning as well as the other. So I just want to help give you the confidence that the more you experiment, the more you're going to figure out what works for you in your situation, because you're all very, very unique. And sometimes it's just tools you may already have around the house. So this is a good way not only to get started, for those of you that have fear or balance issues, you kind of got, dry land for one. But for my athletic users, maybe want to do wider positioning, you can also incorporate this same principle to make your exercise positions more challenging. So a step, if you do not have one, sometimes you can get one cheap just online on Marketplace, the used sites, garage sales. But prices are pretty good right now. For those of you that are unaware and are in the U.S., I do have a pretty awesome discount with LifePro. They are not only the best to support, but they offer my members a healthy discount, 20% off if you are interested in purchasing with LifePro direct in the U.S., which is where they are based. They've also got quite a few of their items on Amazon. If you're considering medical grade and you want to have that conversation, we can certainly do that another time. But that's like any medical device. It's going to be a quote situation. I want to make sure if you're looking at investing, 6 to 20 grand, that it's even necessary. Okay, I want to understand why, because you don't necessarily need the medical grade plate to get the studies kind of stalled, and a lot of what I'm seeing in the home machines, are things when I was in the medical world, I was told by the research that this can't happen, but I see it every day. So I think really the key is movement and weight bearing movement, and the plate, for those of you without getting too technical, it kind of superficially increases our exposure to gravity. So when you're doing exercises on a vibration plate, even on the lowest, most moderate of settings, you're increasing your mass and how hard your muscles have to work to support that mass. For those of you that are in poor health and are standing on it, you're getting ready to do fitness, but you're not ready. My favorite, and this is great for my fitness folks too, I don't want to just stand here, so I'm going to do a couple moves. Pelvic tilts. For those of you that have fallen, I probably wore the stupidest clothes to show this, but you're tilting that tailbone forward. We're going to clench those butt cheeks for like 2 to 3 seconds. Then we're going to take that tailbone and tilt it backwards for 2 to 3 seconds, and you'll almost feel an arch in the low back. And keep doing that. Time with the breathing. Maybe we're adding some movement with that, our goalposts. Okay? All the while, even though we're just doing some symptom management stuff and just feeling better, we're bearing our mass. So our bones are getting stronger, our muscles are getting stronger, our balance is improving. So you don't have to do a specific program. It's not a specific setting. Certain benefits just happen because you're moving. And lymph's a big one. When you move, lymph moves. If you want to ramp up the bone density, the strength, some of the fitness gains, it's applying a little bit of effort. If you can push the bones and the muscles to do more, they will return more. If you're just going through the basics and doing bare minimum and thinking the machine's going to take care of this for you, you're certainly likely to maintain. You may or may not digress. I'm not in control of everything in your health arsenal, but what I will tell you is individuals that put a little bit more effort forth, that are forcing the muscles and the bones to work harder, demanding more of them, the muscles and the bones biologically have to return by laying more osteoblasts, by making that muscle fiber stronger, because it has to support the activity you're asking it to do. So if you're just asking your bones to do this, okay, that's all that they're going to build the bones for. But if you're asking them to support, stuff like this, they're going to return the favor by becoming stronger. But if you're doing these things on the vibration plate, we're increasing that exposure to gravity. We're recruiting a higher percentage of muscle fiber into the equation. That's where the fast fatigue comes in. I need a breath of coffee. And I'm just going to check in real quick here, because I've already rambled 20 minutes. I don't need to pee yet, but just in case. I want to check in on some questions before I get into fitness. And for those of you that may be joining me a little bit late, the first portion of today's session, which is called Managing Symptoms, there's never any really one thing that covers it all. So, I mean, maybe you're doing some of the feel-good stuff for recovery. Maybe it's just fun and self-care and something you're doing while you're watching a movie. Passive use is probably the bigger term, and some of you just need to adhere to the protocols really outlined by your doctor or PT. So if you've been told to avoid high-intensity activity, ease back into it, 10 minutes, feet wide, standing there thinking, just setting some presets because some other guy told you that's what you're supposed to do, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed and probably a little bit sore the next day. So be realistic in where you're starting at. Be conservative on time and intensity, and use it more often. Let those symptoms manage when you need a quick fix versus just jumping on for 10 minutes. And I think you'll find over the next coming weeks with the holidays, it's going to be a lot easier to manage, 2 to 3 minutes here and there. Keep those gains going for those of you that are dealing with chronic issues. I don't want you crashing over the holidays, but keep in mind you're doing a lot of extra activity, running around, hauling that turkey, those presents. But because it's not like exercise in your gym or what have you, we don't tend to take into account the additional activities. So if you are dealing with chronic issues, be kind to yourself and recognize the activities and the mental activity, the stress, that increases. Use your plate as a coping mechanism. Use it to manage your symptoms, and let's worry about getting back to fitness towards the end of the month, okay? Contraindications, I'll just briefly again state, mine are very different. There's generally a way that you can modify how you're using the plate, be that the positions, just modifying settings, sometimes even time of day. It is a very, very effective therapeutic and recovery tool, regardless of the fact that a lot of you are looking at it as an exercise. Sometimes we need to bridge the gap from, doing certain things short term so we can get to the exercise. I hope that makes sense. So I am going to get on to fitness here a little bit in a minute. It says to unplug when not in use. Why is that? Can I just turn it off? Yes. I just turned mine off. It's funny. I'm going to answer that one right now because it's been a common one this week. Anything that plugs into the wall in North America, if you look at the manual, pretty likely says not to use a surge protector or an extension cord. I'm developing something here in my throat. Has nothing to do with the vibration plate, or the blender for that matter, but it does have to do with who knows what we're plugging it into. Your home, your panel, we don't know what else you're dealing with. So somewhere in the, ETL or American Electrical Standards Association, something like that, they've said, we just got to cover our ass. No plugging into extension cords and surge protectors. That's an everybody thing. So I recognize that some of these cords are super short, and if you get an old house like me, you might only have one plug in a whole room. You absolutely can use an extension cord, but make sure first what you're plugging the extension cord into is adequate. And on the other side of the wall, you don't have 15 things in your kitchen plugged into it. The risk of using an extension cord is kind of that common sense discussion. It's not the extension cord. It's what else you're expecting the plate to share power with at the time that you're using it. So just make sure that you've dedicated that plug for the period of your session to it, and you don't have your blender and your space heater going at the same time. That's the bigger risk. If you are having issues, you've got ground outlets that aren't grounded, those type of things. I do recommend turning the plate off, so the power switch off. It does have, most of this equipment has a built-in surge protector at the base, but if you did have a big old lightning storm or something happen with one of your smart meters or something, I'd hate for you to chance it. So I do recommend, if able, to turn the power switch off. If you are physically unable to get down and it's going to put you in a situation, leave it on. I've got some of you that are using it multiple times a day. So it's one of those things, common sense applies. If you're going to be leaving your plate on, make sure it's got a dedicated plate or place. If you have trouble switching it on and off and you'd like to do that, maybe you got a ruler or a cane or something that, so you physically don't have to reach down and do that. But if you do need to leave it plugged in, sometimes it's safer to do that than you putting yourself in harm's way. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so we are going to move on. It's the top of the hour to the fitness portion, and I'm going to keep this part extra brief because I want to leave at least a half hour for questions. I've kind of talked a little bit of fitness. I just need to go in and make sure nobody's lost in Facebook land, because that always happens. And I just wanted to go. This, unfortunately, I could not get this going in the event itself, as some of you may know. So I just want to make sure nobody's in the event looking for me. It says happening now. So okay, I think we're okay. Join me. Okay. So, for fitness, even though we all aspire to it, I know everybody wants to get into shape, but sometimes the body or where it is at this moment in time isn't cooperating with us. So fitness, it doesn't have to be a big 10, 12, 20 move thing. It doesn't have to be this big time commitment. Before you're going to be successful with any fitness plan, you kind of got to have a goal. And part of that goal planning is like I said earlier, being realistic with where you're starting at, and then knowing not only where the deficiencies are, but maybe it's just weaknesses in your training or things that you've been trying to focus on but you haven't been. So a great way to use a vibration plate for my fitness goers out there, and probably where I see more of them starting with it. Most of you, my fitness goers, don't think of this isn't a workout machine. But many of you see it as an ideal tool for recovery, warm up, and for those of you that are training, it can accelerate recovery time. I'm not here to tell you that you should be training back to back. You do run the risk of overtraining. But when you're training at that, kind of level, I've supported a number of national, international athletes, and, there's a period in time where it's go time. And if you've got something that can not only help you recover from the workout faster, but it's helping you sleep better. It's going to minimize injury by its ability of how it warms up that muscle tissue and the joints. There's lots of reasons this can be an ultimate complement to whatever it is that you are doing for fitness. For the next few weeks, where maybe, you got presents to wrap and dinners to attend and you can't hit the gym, a lot of the good principles and the technique that you're using at the gym now can be applied to the plate. The hard part about fitness, guys, in all honesty, outside of it, being a little bit more effort, is most of us are not exercise gurus now. And believe it or not, we don't really know how to do a squat effectively. The breathing might not be there. There could be deficiencies. And all of a sudden, you're doing it in an environment that makes it more effective, more challenging. So the more that the basics can be there and your technique is applied, and the more that you're ensuring you're using positions or variations of positions that are challenging for you personally, the sooner you're going to see what I'm talking about here. So when I got to be fit girl and be in my spandex at the trade shows and whatever else, I really only use about 3-4 regular moves, and I add variations to those moves. So I'm going to give you an example of the second one. The first one was my pelvic tilt. So my pelvic tilt or my hula circles, maybe I'm like dancing. That is my warm-up position number one. I never did get that knee done. And I'm 54 and I've been shoveling snow and I chased around a couple kids. So if I just, get things moving a little bit first, the rest of it becomes more fluid and more effective. So I do all of my stuff in kind of the mid-speed ranges. So I'm going to set my mini today. I'm at 35 now. That's a little bit lower than the mid-ranges, but there is no exact number. I want you to, again, experiment with a little bit of a closer foot position and a bit of a faster speed. If you prefer wide, that's fine, but understand it's hard getting up into those higher speeds. Setting it with wide feet, max time, max setting, the machine's not going to do the work for you. I just want to reiterate that. So my feet are slightly angled, about hip width apart, and a good squat is almost like you're getting ready to sit in a chair. So the one fitness move that is going to take you further, it's going to burn the most calories, it's going to improve your function as well, is a squat. So a basic squat, we want to try and keep a nice straight spine, and it's like we're getting ready to sit in a chair. Everybody's squat's going to look a little different depending on your range of motion. Now you'll notice I'm not moving. For those of you that have never joined a session of mine, movement is absolutely a way that you can do this in reps. But when you move like really fast on a vibration plate, you might be getting some cardio, but you're not really building the load. You're kind of just working out on a balance bar. It's offering the destabilization, but it's not increasing the load on the muscles. So work with me here. Come down into whatever is low for your squat. Only work with your own range of motion. If you got a bad knee, bad hip, pay attention to those things. And I want you to just hold still. Put your hands on your thighs, your hips. But what you'll notice when you're not moving, you'll feel the pressure build. It's almost like you're having a bit of a Charlie horse is what it feels like sometimes. You will make sure those heels are planted. Again, if you're feeling it, too much in the shins or the knees, the body has shifted the mass towards the balls of the feet. So keep those heels planted and just hold until you can't hold no more. If you're blasting past a minute, you're not doing a squat that's challenging enough for you. Maybe you need to go lower. Maybe you do need some movement. If you are going to move, try very slow, very purposeful, so you can still feel that load build. And what I love about the slow movement is you're really going to identify, everybody's got a weak side and a strong side. You'll notice, your body trying to compensate by pushing you left or pushing you right. So a good tip for my fitness goers, I've got this here, and normally when I'm working out, I'm facing a mirror. So I can notice those subtle little weight shifts, or if I'm losing my posture, I can self-monitor my technique. If you're really, really training and you're working out with weights and it's go time and you're trying to build at this point, well, same position. Okay. Remember how when we were sitting down and we were adding arm movements? So you don't have to do just one thing. By adding weights to our standing positions, we're heavier. We're going to make those bones and those muscles work harder. If you're adding weights to your squats, yes, those quads are going to be challenged more, as are the glutes. Those big groups of muscles are going to be fired up, and they're going to boost that metabolism. But if you want to define the arms, you want to gain some arm strength, let's incorporate some upper body movement. whatever that looks like. I've got 10 pounds aside right now. These are some of the click dumbbells, and I've definitely overcommitted for all the snow shoveling I've done today. Maybe you're working more on the triceps or side raises or front raises. Whatever arm exercises you're doing with weights right now can be done on your plate. One exception to that, though, you want to make sure the plate that you're using has the capacity. So the model I'm working on today is the Waver Mini. It's got 265-pound weight capacity. I'm walking around right now at about $1.25. So I've got about 100 pounds of mass that I can add to my frame before I need to be concerned about this. So weight capacity sometimes on a machine means that I need more capacity for my personal body, but I also want you to keep that number in mind. If you do, whether you're starting today or progressing towards this, if you do have plans for fitness, I recommend not going too small with some of the itty-bitty machines. They're cute, they're portable, they fit under my desk, but I don't want you standing on something that's 12 pounds and thinking it's going to be a workout machine that you can do some of these things on. The Waver Mini is kind of the bare minimum I recommend if you do plan on primarily using your plate standing, and certainly if you're going to be getting into some dynamic exercise, you want to have a little bit of mass to support what you're doing on the plate. Other movement types very quickly, none are more effective. Yes and no. We've been talking a lot about oscillating. All of the moves I'm doing today are universal regardless of movement type, but the Waver is single oscillating movement. I know many of you are using combo machines where you've got a pulsation lineal movement, which is vertical. There's also lateral, which is side to side. And then there's now this new spiral one that moves around like a spiral. Many of these things are not like terribly scientific, to be honest with you. They'll tell you that they are, and there's a lot of marketing online. But again, the true medical grade devices are very expensive. Many of them don't even exist anymore. So don't be sold on any one number, and anyone that's bashing one type over another is trying to sell you something. So oscillating movement is the most natural. It's the most that people, want to use because it feels natural to them, especially with the symptom stuff. But for fitness, I feel because it has larger and variable amplitude, so that amplitude is the amount of impact or movement, but in your muscle, in the spindles, it's how far they are having to respond to the movement. The downside of pulsation, many of you think, well, I have to have pulsation vertical because I need 40 hertz for bone density. I'm so sick of hearing that. It's marketing, people. 40 hertz, okay, great. But we're not talking about amplitude. So amplitude on pulsation on the average machine, and even the ones that are just pulsation, some people have a book on Amazon that say that their specs are proprietary and they can't disclose those things. No, you must. It's kind of a scientific thing. It's like buying a car and the dealership saying, well, we can't tell you if it's a 4-banger or a V6 because it's proprietary. No, you need to know these things because you need to know how big of an engine you're getting. So in the vibration plate world, 2 things that should always be disclosed, 3 actually. First, vibration plate movement type. Might be 1, might be 2, might be 3. Frequency in oscillating are lower with much larger amplitudes. Vertical is faster. They have faster, but they have minuscule, like I can't even measure with a pencil, amount of amplitude. So when you're standing on the average, I don't care what brand, the average oscillating vibration plate, hip width apart, you're moving anywhere from, let's say, 1 to 3 millimeters, depending on the type of plate that you're using and how big it is. The wider you go, the more. Some plates at the outer edge, you're moving as much as 6, 8, and in the old days, 10, 12 mil. It's a lot of movement, okay? And it has its place. When you're using a vertical technology, it's fixed. And very often, it's only one amount, maybe a high-low button if you get into some of the really expensive commercial gym versions. But you're moving a millimeter, half a millimeter. So you're certainly moving faster, but the size of the movement, the size of the contraction, I honestly, and maybe that's why the research has stalled and nobody's talking about this factor, it's been watered down. Like the medical devices of the day were like 4 millimeters. That's a lot of movement. The average one being sold nowadays, like I say, is half a mil, maybe a mil. So they've been what I refer to as consumerized. They watered that value down because it was very aggressive on the upper body, chattered the teeth, not harmful, but if you don't like how it feels, you're not going to use it multiple times a day for the rest of your life. It's an unpleasant experience. So I love vertical technology, but the home version, the pulsation, whatever these other ones being sold online, it wouldn't be my first choice. It's a feature. It's an add-on. So if you're looking at a Rumblex, some of the combo machines that Life Pro offers and other brands, it's a nice to have, but it should never be the primary thing you're looking for. You don't want a machine that just does 40 hertz, because guess what? You're going to run out of things to do with it very, very quickly. Vertical plates are very limited in their programming. They have like 30, 35, 40, and 50. On an oscillating plate, in oscillating in home machines, you're going anywhere from 12 to 16 hertz on the model, but you've got like 50, 100 different speeds. You can fine tune and mix it up a lot more readily than 4 different presets. Plus, you've got all the preset programs. So those are just for variety. I will never offer you a single number that is more effective for this or that. And anyone that is telling you that is misleading you in some way, shape, or form, trying to, or they're ill-informed. And AI, as much as I'm working with it as much as I can, it's very, very inaccurate. And unfortunately, it's not AI's fault. It's a lot of the research back in the day was, all these reviews where they throw all these different vibration plate studies into it. Well, there's 2 completely different types of physics there. You can't just average them and lump them together. And to me, it's frustrating because that tells me how little the people doing the research actually understand the machines when it comes to applying it for your use, which is the big thing you're looking for. So fitness, that was my second move. What you do with your squat is really kind of up to you, but I would recommend, you can do these positions in any type of movement, but remember that lesson with your feet. So even with your squats, if you're finding, you're not stable in the movement or it's just more than you're ready for, bring those feet a little bit closer to the center, right? If you're just beginning to do these type of things, maybe you're on a bit of a weight loss journey. Another fitness tip, certainly for your squats, if you're pushing these muscles to fatigue, try doing it early in your day. Get that metabolism boosted early so those idle calories throughout the day, you're shaving away a few more. So for me personally, I find if I can get my squats done in the morning, my knee actually feels, the popcorn, the crickety-crackety, you guys know what I'm talking about, is also less. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of upper body today because that's just another 2-hour thing in itself. But just like when you are doing your standing positions, you can do a push-up on the machine, but I want to make sure you know how to do a push-up first. I know these women get in these machines, you haven't done a push-up in your life, but you're going to do a full one on your toes on a vibration plate. Same lessons apply. Bring those hands closer to the center. Maybe drop to the knees. Right? Take some of the body weight out. And with upper body, the real trick on any movement type is line of sight. So if I'm on the plate with my hands and my head is right above the plate, I'm getting the most head shake. Push the body just slightly forward so that the shoulders are above the hands and you're going to minimize 90% of it. So moving on with my fitness. Depending on your level of fatigue, what are the things you might be incorporating into this? So we had just finished a squat. What I would normally do after or between my squats, instead of doing a whole bunch of different positions, I like to do multiple reps of the same position. So I tend to do 2 or 3 reps of a squat. The first one, looking sort of basic. The second one, I might do a little bit of movement, or I might add a little bit of weight. And then that third rep, I'm really just trying to push to kill myself. But between each of those reps, I have another short recovery exercise that I do. And I'm going to bring my feet a little bit closer together. This is great, especially for those of you that might be dealing with low back and spine issues. Nobody here, right? That can be an area of fatigue when you're working on your squats. So what this one is, with the feet are closer, because if you do have spine issues, you want to reduce the impact a little bit. And I'm just going to lean forward like at a 45-degree angle. My knees are just undone, and you'll feel, you can't really see this on the camera, but in my mirror, very good. There. So you see how I got a nice straight back. My tailbone is tilted slightly backwards, and I'm just hitting the low back. So I do this for about, 5, 6, maybe 10 seconds, and then I go back into my next rep. 2, 3, 4, whatever I'm doing. And then when I can't do any more, I stand up, bring my heels a little closer, and I just take a breather. And I might let the arms hang. I just take a little bit of a breather and just keep the machine going. Depending on where you're at, my workout is probably, this time of year I'm not as fit as I am in the summer, but I like to make sure I'm doing probably a good 3 minutes on those squats, sometimes a little bit less depending on my knee or what else I might have planned for the day. My total machine session time in the morning doesn't exceed 5 minutes. I do my 1-minute pelvic tilts. I do 2 to 3 reps of my squats. That's including this low back position, which is position number 3. And then the very last position that I want to show, this is one that I don't do enough. It's just as much a feel good as it is a fitness position, but it does require range of motion. So for my last position, I've killed myself in my squat. Adding weights is probably my favorite way if I'm not fatiguing. If I'm really conditioned and I want to tone up and get some definition in those muscles, adding mass is the best way to do that. Anything from the click weights to the exercise vest, adding a weight vest, whatever you may have around the house. I'm going to now sit down on the plate, in case you haven't noticed. So with range of motion on this one, it's not often, most of us can get down, it's the getting back up. So I want to make sure before you even try this position that the range of motion is there. This is one of those moves, it's very easy to overdo it. Unlike a squat or a push-up where eventually you're going to get tired and stop. This one feels really good. It's very lazy. There's never any one reason to do any one position. There tends to be multiple benefits. So just like anything else we're doing on the plate, you're getting that boost of lymph, you're getting that circulation, but by sitting on the plate, you're getting the movement a little bit more direct into the hips, the low back, which is just a really nice way to relieve tension if you have it in those areas. For my ladies that are working on skin tone, this is a great one to target the skin directly. Maybe you're doing some manual dry brushing or using a massage gun. This is a good one to incorporate some other things with. I have a lot of people that deal with urinary incontinence, constipation, that sit on the plate for that reason. If that's something that is possibly a benefit to you, adding Kegels while you're sitting here, just clenching those muscles like you're stopping yourself from taking a pee, boy or girl, and just relax, clench, and relax. A lot of these, again, are things you're supposed to be doing already. So when you're sitting down on the plate and doing direct massage like this, the intensity, wide legs, close legs, you'll feel there's a difference. So you kind of got to feel what's comfortable for you. If you're sitting straight up, you're going to get the most head vibe. It's not harmful, but it does take some getting used to. So if you don't like how it feels kind of above the neck, lean forward slightly, and you'll hear it in my voice. And then I personally, arch the back, roll the, play with that angle and see how much you can tolerate. If you want a little bit more direct upper body, take the hands, tuck them palms down, just underneath the thighs where they meet the butt cheek. So you're not sitting on them, they're just sort of at the top of where the butt cheek meets the thigh. And for those of you with arthritic hands, aches and pains, just the mass of your legs being on the hands drills them into the plate in a most wonderful way. but you're going to see my bat wings moving a little bit now, right? Maybe do some shoulder. It's a good way to get some passive movement into the arms. If strength is the goal, which is the second half of it, we're looking at fitness, just pushing and resisting a little bit into the plate, you'll feel like you're almost lifting yourself off slightly, and hold, 2, 3, relax. Make sure you're not all slouchy, good posture where you can. Push, 2, 3, relax. This is more comfortable than here. A lot of you, well, can I just put my arms on the outer edges? You can, but it's a lot of movement. Remember, wider is more action. So just because that might be the only place logically it seems to put your hands, maybe you put them on your legs. Or maybe you lean over like I was doing before. Going right out to the edge, especially if you've got a larger model, it's more swing than some folks are ready for. So fitness is about, honestly, guys, whether you're doing it now or not, the better your technique, the better your results are going to be. I don't want to mislead anyone, and I know some of the reason the fitness crowd looks at these machines and just thinks it's a joke is because many companies want you to believe, well, you just stand there and wake up a size 2 tomorrow. Many people have those kind of experiences where you've been active or you're inactive and unable to traditionally be active. A lot can happen by just adding movement and other good lifestyle choices. But the 60, 70 pound weight loss, the definition, the toning, you want to train, of course you need to put forth some effort and some appropriate positions. And if you're a fitness guru now, you probably have a few exercises that are your go-to, whether that's squats, lunges, pistols, whatever it is that you're doing. The plate is just an environment to bring other benefits into the equation, the destabilization, the balance, or the stability, the circulation. But I've got people training, bodybuilders that go to train on stage, and we practice our poses on this plate. So get creative. You are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. And feel-good use is different than fitness. So I know it's going to come up because it always comes up. How long can I use the plate, Debbie? It depends on what you're using it for, where you're physically starting, and where you want to grow. I have people using it for hours in a day, for 2 to 3 minutes here and there because the pain and the suffering is that bad. And if this is your symptom management tool and it's easing your pain and your swelling, over time, it's kind of up to you how long your body can tolerate it. Just be mindful and listen to your body. For the fitness gurus or those aspiring to be, you can't just keep going longer and longer and longer and longer. The machine is not going to do all the work. So when I see these posts where it's, well, I got my machine today and I already went twice for 15 minutes, what do I do now? You're overdoing it. Even though it seems like you're not really doing much yet, think like medication. Give this a week to 30 days, especially my chronic folks, to just give your body time to get used to this thing, to become assimilated before you progress into more challenging things. So I hope that helps. I'm going to move over to the camera and do a little gauge as to who's here. I wanted to make sure I had at least a half hour for questions. Hello again, Kathy. Hello, Holly and Tony. So I did answer the one question about the cord. Oh, hi, Lisa. So nice to see you. It's been a while. So a couple questions here. Let's get started. It says, have the mini waiver. Very pleased. After a few minutes, my knees magically feel so loose. The vibration feels like inner massage. Yummy. I agree. And as I was sort of explaining there, if you caught that ramble, there's lots of little ligaments and muscles and tendons, and the knee is a very fascinating joint, and it can take a lot of abuse, but sometimes it needs some attention too. One of my favorite things to do for my knee if Dirk is watching today, if not today, he will be at some point. I often talk to you about go get a pool noodle. Go to Dick's Sporting Goods or Walmart or wherever. There's a couple different sizes. But what I like to do with mine, when my knee's bugging me and I'm lazy, I massage mine. So I will sit down. I know many of you have tried a calf massage. And I use this under the back of my knee. So you've got areas in your body, the back of the knee, the feet, where the vibration doesn't necessarily transmit, this is a great way. You can do some exercises. If I've got any of my families here with my littles that lack mobility, sometimes it's hard to hold the foot in place and do this while you're working with the lift. These are great tools to work for those of you that are limited. They just get into the arches of the feet, into the Achilles, help you out with some calf raises. A vibration or a pool noodle will serve the purpose of what your physio noodles would. But when you incorporate the vibration, the resonance of that vibration transmits nicer through a pool noodle than some dense, hard plastic thing. So what I do is I cut it the width of my plate with a steak knife, and then the other part I cut lengthways. So if I need a little bit less lift, or if I'm working with littler feet. And some of my folks prefer the smaller size. It's just one of those things that you can play with without investing a whole lot more to mix that up a little bit. I forgot to show that. I wanted to show you. So should you do the lymphatic preparation for lymphatic drainage before standing on the plate? Absolutely, yes. Before sitting, before standing. And it's a period in time thing. A lot of people, myself included, until somebody told me about it, don't think about, they know that a vibration plate's good at moving lymph. Well, it's very good, probably better than anything else on the planet, but is your body prepared to dissipate that rush and flow? So prepping simply helps the body open up and get those channels moving so that you can take that rush of circulation. But if you're a new user, you're new to prep, you've got known lymphatic issues, I want you being conservative on that time and intensity, and do it more often. I'm not saying you have to prep every single time. I have a short video that I will share. It's going to take you about 2 minutes. Some of my gals like to do the prep seated on a stool. But again, you'll have to experiment. Some people don't need to prep. Some people need to prep. It really depends. I also want to raise another condition that's very common in some of my groups, which is MCAS. For those of you that do not know what MCAS is, mast cell activation syndrome, one of the biggest common side effects when you start a vibration plate is that itch, that pins and needles that drives you crazy. It's pretty common. Not everyone experiences, but most people do experience it. If it's super severe and you're like breaking out in hives, which I have seen, it's probably pretty likely that you are dealing with MCAS or related disorders. So MCAS is a condition where through overactivity, new activity sometimes, the body pre-releases histamines and you have literally an allergic reaction. For those of you that are dealing with MCAS regularly, and I've discussed this with your doctor, some of you are taking preventative measures like an antihistamine or prepping. There's different things, and many do tolerate longer durations over time. But when you're first starting out, if these are things that you need to be paying attention to, all the more reason to keep those sessions brief, 2 to 3 minutes. See how you feel. You don't want to move too much lymph and have it collect elsewhere, or be so tired that you can't even walk back to the machine the next day. So do it more often, and let those symptoms, when the energy dips, when the swelling started, when the cuffs are showing at the ankle, those types of things, and build over time. And overtime isn't 3 days in a row. It's give it a couple weeks. Kathy says directions say to unplug. We covered that one. Lisa says hello. Oh, Kathy says I've seen videos of preparing the lymphs, massaging under the armpits, around the neck, etc. Is that necessary? There's lots of different videos out there on how to prep your lymph, and some people claim to be the authors, but prepping the pathways is something that any therapist I've worked with, my lymphatic therapists, are especially versed. You're taught this in school. This is something that you share with your clients now, and some feel there's 9 points. I've got a short version that's 6 that a massage therapist in one of my groups, Jennifer, was kind enough to do. I'll share that after the fact. But it starts with the neck area, in this region here, the collarbone, the armpits, just under the ribs, just above the belly button, the groin, and then the backs of the knees. So, 10, 15 rubs or taps in those areas is really, I try anything that I'm making you do as extracurricular stuff. I really want these things to be doable. You know, if it's this big, long, drawn-out thing, especially with the holidays coming, I know it's not going to work for you. So everything that I provide isn't the only way, or it's not always necessarily the best way, but it's a way that's manageable with my experience and my members, and especially this time of year, short and sweet usually fits the bill a lot better. Elaine is here. Hello, Elaine. Thank you for joining. It's totally fine that you're late. This will be recorded and you can listen to my rambling after anyways. I am inviting questions at this point. I've either done like a really good job and you have all the answers, or you've been following me long enough that you're like, yeah, we know, Deb, we know. I'm just going to jump back onto Facebook into the event and make sure nobody's looking for me. No. Or maybe you're all just having a better Friday evening than I am. Part of the reason I like doing these sessions, and I haven't done a live in some time through Facebook. Facebook, I recognize not everybody is on, but there's a little bit more immediate interaction than per se, you know, YouTube, and I don't use a streaming service on my own. I do when I'm with Life Pro, but different audience. I'm also streaming on my... Perfect, okay. Well, if you don't have any questions other than that, what I'm going to do after this live wraps up, I am going to go back in and drop what I call my recommended videos. So I know many of you have questions. Not everybody wants to answer questions, and not everybody was able to attend tonight. But I do have a online Google document that has anything from my contraindications, the MCASting that I just discussed, the itchiness, constipation. There's a special needs video. I'm a big supporter. I've got a few very awesome people in my community with Durkheim's disease that I support as well. And there's all kinds of language flying around the internet right now, and one that I'm going to be focusing on next week. So look at the videos, especially if you want a shorter version of how to use your plate. There's a 6-minute one. But towards the end of that document, there are some special talks. And there's a series that I did with a couple of gals in my group that are very skilled professionals in their own disciplines. And there's a lot of talk about fascia, how fascia affects our body, how trauma affects the fascias. It's been a very fascinating area of research. I've been looking into it for some time. And just when I thought, you know, I knew it all a few years ago when I started speaking with Kelly Maynard, who some of you may know through some of the lipedema circles. Kelly has been working on some certification and had a really fabulous idea, because I always know I'm only as good as the people supporting me as well. Jen was kind enough, Jen Stewart, taught me about the lymph prep and gave me this routine to follow. But Kelly has been talking in my ear about doing some isometric exercises that will probably be more than beneficial, especially for those of you dealing with lymphatic or chronic issues again. So we're going to do a couple of isometric exercises where Kelly's going to coach me on the plate and teach me how to do these. I will release that probably early next week. And then I'm going to be getting together with Kelly live. I probably will do it on my Deb's Vibe page so that publicly everyone can access again. But I know once I go through that, a lot of you are going to have questions of how does this translate to my self-care, and how come nobody's told me about this before, and why didn't I know? Kelly herself is dealing with some of the complex issues and symptoms that come with all of this, and she's been generous enough to offer her time. Her page is Wild Heart Wellness. I'll also put a link through to that once I get off the live here. But yeah, she's got just a different, you know, nobody does everything the same way, and I really admire Kelly. She has that self-care for real, genuine. She's been living with this condition for, you know, many, many years, and there's never one way to the self-care when you're dealing with any kind of a condition, and sometimes the self-care needs to change and evolve because the condition has changed, or you've improved because of your care. So it's never one path to success. So some of the things Kelly and I have been talking about this month have just been very, they just make sense to me. I'm all about that common sense stuff. So I want to thank Kelly in advance. Her and I are going to be working together to get a couple of exercises, standing primarily and or seated, so that everyone can kind of join in on this. And we're just going to focus on two things. And we'll get together for a chat live towards the end of next week, certainly before the holidays, maybe early the following, so that you guys have had a chance to take a look at that video, maybe practice it on your machine a little bit, and then we can blast her and I with some questions. So I'll get that posted up in the events here in the next week or so. Betsy is here. Hi, Betsy. Nice to see you. Thank you for your time tonight. Love all your explanations and learned a lot. You are pretty consistent, so thank you for showing up. You can't learn if you weren't here to listen. Holly, again, is there anything that especially helps one to fall asleep? It depends why you're having sleep issues, whether it's apnea, whether, you know, I don't know about you, but once I go to bed, my brain just starts going 100. Oh, I didn't do this, and I got to do that tomorrow. I would suggest if you are going to use it as a sleep aid, everybody's a little different, but I find some people, if you do too much, too close to bed, you get exhilarated and the energy get boosted, and you don't want that either. But if you've never tried it close to bed, maybe about 15, 20 minutes, even a half hour before you go to bed, whether it's standing, seated, if it's restless leg, try and do something just to get some flow going in the body. If it is restless leg, maybe it's just a 5-6 second squat just to fire up those muscles in the legs and see how you do. If you were okay and you know, wanted to try, you know, how close to bed, I've got some people that can do a full workout right before they go to bed and sleep like a baby. So you're going to have to experiment a little bit, but I do want to caution you, more people get exhilarated if they do too much. So 2, 3, if you're an experienced user, Holly, maybe 5 minutes, keep it feel good stuff, and let me know how you make out. If it's more severe, you're dealing with other things, you give me some more specifics, and I may be able to come back with some specific positions or something, but do what feels good to you. That's usually my general rule of thought. Who else have I got here? And you know what? I mean, if that's it, and I don't have any other questions from you. Oh, Claire is here. Hello, hello. Thank you, Claire. Elaine is now here. She's joining late. I said that earlier. I thought I saw another question here. Kathy says, what has LifePro been so slow to respond to emails? I don't actually work for LifePro. I do training for them, but I have absolutely no input or influence on the back end. What I can say based on my own experience this time of year, there was some pretty amazing deals, and they have like twice as many products as they do last year. So I think a lot of it is they're just busy with the Black Friday and those of you using those Black Friday products. But if you haven't gotten a return on an email, you know, and it's been a couple of days, please be patient and reach back out to them. Maybe in a different way. Go on to their VIP group if you're not a member. That's the best way to get some attention. Or go onto their website and speak with their chat. It's recorded that way. Sometimes emails, you know, if everybody sent an email, and sometimes I gotta hate to say this, but sometimes the reason people are emailing are certainly things that need to be answered, but they're not delivery related, or they're training related, or, you know, so that gets in the mix. And I think there's just a number of new clients in the queue. But if it's a purchase or something that you were expecting, please reach out back to them. If it's training related or questions like that, feel free to lean on me. That's what I'm here to support you guys with. Holly says, thanks for a great presentation. I did ramble a little bit. Your brain just chatters, keeps me awake. So you're like me. Sometimes I need to put myself out, like, physically. If I haven't enough physical in the day, then the mind like compensates for it. So yeah, do a couple mean squats, push yourself a little bit, but keep that time under 5 minutes. And I'd be curious, Holly, let me know how you make out tonight and see if that works for you. To everybody else, I think I'm gonna let you go. It's 22. I'm gonna give you one more ask for questions here. I did answer that. I'm gonna put a couple specifics in. Like I say, I will be dropping my recommended videos, and there's about 2-3 pages on that. So there's some answers to common questions. If you are considering buying a plate, there is no best plate for any one condition. It's really more about how you personally are going to be using it. Do you need to be able to hauling it around? Are you elderly and need something stable that's not going to tip over on you? So performance aside, they're all very similar. But when you look at features of like size, add-ons, extra, a plate and the movement a plate offers, the more movements a plate has, the more motors it has. Companies that are out there bragging, oh, we got 2 to 3 motors, we're better. Well, no, it's not a stacking thing. Each motor has its own movement. So if you have just oscillating, you've got a single motor machine. If you have oscillating and lateral, you've got a dual motor machine. If you've got oscillating, lateral, and pulsation, you've got a 3 motor machine and the components. So you're not going to get a little itty bitty 10, 12 pound machine that does everything that a big combo model does. So, don't think that more features and bells and whistles are going to win the race. Consistent use is really what accomplishes all of the benefits. And I'm here to help translate the moves and help you with the settings. I do ask, before asking common questions, I'm getting very, very popular on the internet and my groups are exploding. I get comments lately, well, I don't have time, Debbie. And it's hard after 20 years. I'm being very candid because I care deeply about each of you and I want you to be successful with this equipment, but I can't do this for you. I did the video. I'm well aware of what's in the video and I'm not prepared to make Cole's notes or redo the material that I offer for free. I'm here to support you in the best way that I have found suits everybody out here, but I'm not here to serve you. I am not Life Pro. I am a homeschool mom that's sharing 20 years of what I didn't have someone to support me with. So if you do want individual coaching, if you want to be served, I do offer that for a fee. But in comments, whether it's to me or my members, if you've been accepted to one of my groups, there is material that you have agreed to review before using your plate and before asking questions. If you're joining me in my Deb's Vibe page, go to the video section, jump on my YouTube channel, look at some of the information and self-serve, use the search function. It's getting challenging for me I used to answer every single question and I was very proud of that, but if it's common sense stuff, it's very hard for me to hold everybody's hand to that degree like I used to. So please help me help you. If you are having trouble finding something, absolutely reach out. But I do ask you to make a bit of an effort. I've got thousands of hours out there on every medical condition you can probably imagine between myself and Life Pro. So search both places and reach out to me personally if you do have questions. Of course, I will never slam a door in your face. But I do ask that, you're only going to get as much as I can't do this for you. And the more invested you are in investing just a little bit of time to learn, I'm talking like 10 minutes, guys, the more positive experience you're going to have, the more successful you're going to be in accomplishing those benefits. And to those of you dealing with chronic issues, if I can get in front of you and get some of this information your way before you try, hopefully I'm going to change it from what potentially could be an unpleasant experience to something more positive. That's really why I nag the way that I do. I think that's it, guys. I think I'm going to let you go and have a Friday evening. Elena's asking me if I recommend the Waiver or the Mini. They're kind of neck and neck. If you are wanting more portability, you're planning on moving it around a bit, the Mini has a bit of an edge. It is about 7-8 pounds lighter than the Waiver, which makes a big difference once you're at that 20 pound mark. I think the Waiver is like 28 and I think the Mini's more like 22, so somewhere in there. If you have a dedicated space, the Waiver's better kind of left alone, but you can move it around. It's not unreasonable. If you're going to be doing a little bit more on the workout, you're a little bit taller or larger user, the Waiver does have better weight capacity at 330, and it is a little bit wider, so you can move those feet wider when the time comes. Outside of that, from a performance perspective, they're virtually the same. They're simplistic in their operation. I think even the remotes are the same. It's just a matter of the weight capacity, and on the Mini, it is rated, I think, for 265 pounds. Might be 280, but whereas the Waiver itself has a little bit more size and a little bit more weight capacity. So just, you kind of got to decide what you're using it for, and that would be the best decision, and I hope that makes sense. As I said, I do have a discount code. I am going to type that in here now. This is for Life Pro Direct in the USA. This does not apply to Amazon. But there are still, I know that Black Friday is kind of over, but I'm still seeing some deals in the UK, in Canada, and those types of places. So keep looking if you haven't quite decided. But I would recommend, inventory might be getting there. So because if you've had something in your cart for a month, you might want to pull the plug. 20% off with code. There you go. So that's in there, and I will come back and add the lymphatic prep video that I mentioned along with some other recommended videos. Jenna is asking me, do you have to do lymphatic flow before each use? I don't have time usually. I did answer that question. It has previously been asked. I know that it's tough that you don't have time, but what are the consequences if you need to? So the consequences, if you overdo it on the machine and you haven't done lymph prep, you're going to move too much and you're probably going to pay for it. So if you have to skip the lymph prep, which is really 2 minutes, do it on the machine if you have to, or do it on the way if you're sitting at your desk, or do it at other times. But if you are skipping it and you've got known lymphatic issues, please just be really conservative on your time and intensity. Don't overdo it. That you got to make sure the body can handle what you're asking it to do. And if you're unable to prep, keep it to 2 to 3 minutes first time out. See how you feel, and you'll know if you're overdoing it at that point or need to do the prep. It's not a black or white thing. Everybody's individual, and it's more up to your body to decide whether you need to do the prep or not. So just pay attention to what it's telling you. I hope that makes sense. And I'm going to post a short prep video. Perhaps you're thinking of something that's like this big half-hour thing. No, and I do have a lymphatic video where I do it seated. So maybe that's what you do as your warm-up. You're seated on a stool for a minute and you're doing your lymph prep. So I bring this up just to make you mindful because it's not something that everyone's aware of. I hope that makes sense. Who else is here? Anyone else? Anyone else? We did the sleep. I think that's it. Thank you for that question. Thank you for Holly, Betsy, Elaine, Jenna, thank you for your question. If you are watching this on a recorded basis, I did mention earlier to please just feel free to tag me at Debbie with a Y if you have something specific that you want to ask me, or tag Deb's Vibe, my page. And for those of you that are unaware of these groups that I'm mentioning and things I'm talking about, I will also drop my Linktree link, which is my link to all my other links. Thank you, Joel, for teaching me about that one. And if you have anything that doesn't fit into any of the boxes that I provide, never hesitate to reach out to me with a DM. And I will also drop a link to my newsletter. I got a lot of different ways that I do try to support you guys. You're just maybe not always aware of the avenues. So thank you for joining me on Facebook, for those of you that were able. And I look forward to talking to the rest of you again very soon. As I said, I will be here talking fascia with Kelly here a couple times next week. And I'm also live on the 30th, 31st, and 1st with Life Pro. I want to keep you moving before the year ends, get you moving, and let's blow past all the pressure of these New Year's resolutions and so forth. Let's make it easy and just keep moving through the holidays. So I wish you well if I don't see you before next year. For those of you that are joining me for the first time, thank you very much. I invite you to follow my page so you know about more of these things. And as I said, I'll share some of my learning group information after I get the live wrapped up. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys. Happy shopping if you're out fighting the crowds. And make sure that you make some time for yourself and use some of these amazing tools that you may have gotten over Black Friday. Thanks for joining me, and keep shaking, guys. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon.